Already with the news, in our first story, residents of Awoshie NIC are calling on government to fix deplorable roads in their community. Now, according to them, businesses have had to close due to the dusty road, which they claim is also giving them chest infections. PSA Nanaya Osafo has been interacting with some residents with this report.
If the roads in Awoshie NIC were fixed, the journey from Kasua to places like Santa Maria and Antieku should have lasted for a mere 8 to 10 minutes. But due to the poor nature of the roads, passengers and drivers alike have to endure close to half an hour, as they often, when they come here, have to struggle their way through rocky and windy roads. They tell me that they've suffered this fate for way too long, and it's about time authorities took to action.
I have 22, 23 years here. Now before,
I've lived here for close to 23 years now. It was even worse before the government awarded the contract for the construction of the highway. I'm surprised the Chinese contractor left without constructing this part of the road. It's very challenging for us here whenever it rains. The rocky nature of the road often bursts the tanks below our vehicles.
One, a airport was a bureau, and I say a bonso was a cry, and so toss a bonny to me pie. It would the car, and I'm so now yells Mr. Goins a car, a bonny to me tree car, and I say a beer now tank. Up I now full and now oil, not a new
stop her on to me faka and faho. And I stop on to me. You can't
drive here. The path is full of rocks. It's the same for their journey route. I park my vehicle and walk most often. We don't necessarily want asphalt. We just want some works on the road to make it more accessible. Thieves take advantage of the pedestrians here at night.
Everyone had a nice hankasadi. There be already being where papa.
Yes, so Mamma say a penny bar and foot in a higher pa, cabby chumana, bone foot in a gears.
Our clothes are often filled with dust by passing vehicles during the Harmattan period. Catarrh is a common sickness around here. We hung some clothes up for sale. It all ended up dirty due to the dusty roads. In the end, we ran at a loss.
The road is dusty and it has various implications in terms of respiratory system. And aside that, due to COVID, though we have the nose mask, but the COVID will go away and the dust still remains, and it will even have effect, if not now, maybe in the near future.
Sometimes we'll be a crowd in the hospital. Last time, because I gave you our top before you do us and
the roads are so poor. A pregnant woman delivered a baby in my taxi before we even reached the hospital not too long ago. It was quite a nasty scene when we reached the health facility.
NPP strong vote.
This is an NPP stronghold. We want Akufo-Addo to live up to his showboy title so we can vote for him.
Chief Executive for the Ghana Central Municipal Assembly, Emmanuel Lamte, said the contract has been awarded and the contractor should have been on site by now.
Yes, it's been awarded. It's from the Antieku last stop here to Nsumfa, linking the main Awoshie Pokwase. I need to cross-check with my engineer when the contractor was moving, because some few weeks back, I got information that he was coming to site. And but some residents from Antieku came here, and luckily enough, I showed them the contracts that has been awarded 2.5 kilometers.
He, however, indicated that the project might take time to complete due to the profile of the area.
Because of the topography and the hilly nature, that place needs a lot of patience because of the. Other than that, we'll go and do something that may create further challenges to the community or the residents there.
Emmanuel Lamte said untarred roads in the municipality will soon be graded for easy navigation.
Assembly also has a dedicated arrangement where areas that don't have maybe asphalt or surface dressing, we do dedicated grading just to keep the road motorable. But when you look at also the soil, it's also a bit unconsolidated, very loose. So sometimes when it also rains, you see that almost all the topsoil is eroded, then it comes back to the original state it is. So sometimes you'll be there today, you say that we've done the road very well. The next day when it rains, if you go there again, so within a space of 3 days, you may conclude that the assembly hasn't done anything at all. So what we also do is that those that we have not awarded, we try to make them motorable.
PSA Nanaya Osafo, JoyNews.
After years of drinking water from a muddy stream, residents of the Eastern Regional Community of Domeabra are hailing Promasidor Ghana Limited, producers of cowbell, for their new source of drinking water. The new borehole, built by the beverage maker as part of their 20th anniversary in the industry, is to serve the only clinic in the community. Here's a report by Justice Baidu.
Brownish and covered by weeds. For many years, this has been the source of drinking water for the people of Domeabra here in the Eastern region.
In the dry season, the river dries up, and when it rains too, it is full of filth. And you would need to sieve the filth from the water itself before you can fetch.
Like many other communities here in the Kwaibibrem district where it is located, this is a very deprived community. It has only recently been connected to the national grid. But its challenges with water has always been a major source of worry for its people, constantly blamed for the high cases of waterborne diseases in the area.
Water is life, and without it, you would struggle. Even when people walk on the desert, they die because there's no water. So we need water to survive.
We are happy to come here to Domeabra today and to invest in this community, giving back to the people who support us. 20 years ago, our brand was born in this country, and Ghanaians have patronized our products all these 20 years and built us into what we are. So we are very happy to invest in our community and to redeem our pledge, which we made a year ago, to provide a borehole in this community.
I'm grateful to Cowbell for intervening in my village and helping us with water. We ask God to bless Cowbell.
The new mechanized borehole constructed here by Cowbell is touching lives.
Justice Baidu, JoyNews, Domeabra.
And I tell you, radio indeed gets results, just like also TV also does. But look, I hope we also do remember Dari Poga, the woman with leprosy, believed to be in her 80s, featured in Seth Kwame Boateng's Wither Skins documentary. The good news is that she will, in the next few days, move into her new house built for her by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. The house, built in a record time of some 7 weeks, is ready. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more on this.
The hotline documentary titled Wither Skins was one of Seth Kwame Boateng's documentaries which aim at educating Ghanaians on the ancient disease leprosy. Little did he know that it was going to completely turn the destiny of one of the characters around. The biblical phrase, "There is time for everything," has really manifested in the life of Darpo, a leprosy-stricken woman believed to be in her 80s. The leprosy has eaten all her 10 fingers away and totally impoverished her. As if this was not enough, her 6 children has abandoned her. She could only get food to eat when a good Samaritan passes by. Any heavy storm could collapse the dilapidated mass structure she slept in on her. That epochal story touched the hearts of many, including the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, who intervened without delay. Then the big announcement followed.
Where the old lady is housing is not good enough. His Excellency the Vice President has offered to build a modest accommodation for our mother. So I came with a foreman who will supervise the construction of the building. Starting tomorrow, work will start for the construction of a modest accommodation for our mother. As Ghanaians, we should all emulate the good example exhibited by His Excellency the Vice President.
On 16 July, the construction began, 7 weeks after the 2-bedroom house with hall, kitchen, toilet and bath is ready and has been painted. Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali has been supervising the construction.
And as of now, the project is completed. His Excellency, after I have informed him about the completion of the work, has tasked me to get a solar panel fixed to the house, and that will be done from tomorrow, Monday. It is my expectation that by close of next week, everything about the project would have come to completion. We are also about finishing it, getting beds and furniture for the lady.
This is not the only present that has come her way. 2 contributions from our listeners and viewers, almost 40,000 Ghana cedis, has been raised for her, with 2/3 put in an investment account and the rest in a saving account. She can draw 400 Ghana cedis from every month. In the next few days, the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, will officially hand over the house to her.
Alagi Mahamudu, baraka.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Motori.
Our kudos to Seth Kwame Boateng. Great time there for the aged. Well, we have to move on, and the mainstream party political news is what we're bringing to you. Now, the governing new Patriotic Party is promising to provide loans for rent, a new airport and a harbour in the central region, and also remove import duties on sanitary pads if the party is given a second term in office this December. Now, during the party's manifesto at the University of Cape Coast over the weekend, President Akufo-Addo said Ghana is thriving under his government. The president also said the NPP has accomplished more in 3.5 years than the NDC did in 8 years. There's more in this NewsDesk report.
I have decided to follow Nana. I have decided for free SHS. I have decided for 1D1F. No turning back, no turning back.
A packed auditorium of NPP supporters, as well as national executives, members of parliament, ministers, and CEOs of state institutions. They all thronged the University of Cape Coast to witness the launch of the party's manifesto themed Leadership of Service, Protecting Our Progress, Transforming Ghana for All. The governing NPP says the launch of the manifesto is to afford the electorate a chance to appreciate the gains chalked under the Akufo-Addo administration. Earlier, the General Secretary of the party said the NDC is waiting to steal ideas from their manifesto. One after the other, speakers who mounted the podium highlighted what they described as major achievements of the NPP in the various sectors from health, education, infrastructure, and the economy. They left no stone unturned as they repeatedly compared what they have done to what the NDC administration did. Here is Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia with highlights of the manifesto and an unending appeal to Ghanaians to extend the party's mandate for the next 4 years.
For the people of Cape Coast, I have good news for you. We are building a new harbor in Cape Coast and a new airport in Cape Coast. Except teacher and nursing trainees who will be on allowances. But all tertiary students will now be able to get the option to obtain a student loan without the requirement of a guarantor. We will eliminate import duties on sanitary pads to improve health conditions, particularly for girls. The government has decided to come in and bridge this market failure by setting up a national rental assistance scheme. And under this scheme, if you have a job and we can deduct regularly from your income, under this scheme, the National Rent Assistance Scheme will give you a loan to pay your rent allowance. But we are paying this not to you, but to the landlord.
For the energy sector, Deputy Minister Dr. Amin Adams argued that if the COVID-19 pandemic had occurred under the erstwhile Mahama government, the former president could not have provided free electricity as is being done.
Our president has again demonstrated unparalleled dedication to protecting the welfare of Ghanaians during this painful COVID-19 period, and has provided yet another relief package of free electricity to all lifeline customers and 50% reduction to all others. Fellow Ghanaians, as you continue to enjoy the electricity relief, remember that it takes a caring leader to show empathy to his fellow citizens in times of crisis, notwithstanding the cost. This could not have been possible under the John Mahama economy.
Deputy Finance Minister Abana Osayasari says the NPP has saved 40 million Ghanaians from losing their investment owing to government intervention in the finance and banking sector.
Clearly, all sectors of the Ghanaian economy have benefited from the 16 policy initiatives put in place by this government, leading to manifest results. Our banking industry, for instance, was on the verge of collapse. We have fixed it. We have saved 40 million Ghanaians from losing their investment. Some, even with the aid of hindsight, have suggested what only they could describe as a common sense approach, that we should have given money to the banks to make their shareholders happy. What the Bible describes as putting new wine in old wineskins. Well, Mr. Mahama, you did exactly that over and over again. And what was the result? We were concerned with saving the whole industry rather than pleasing the same people who supervise the near collapse of the industry.
On health, Deputy Health Minister Bernard Okoboy focused on government management of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We have done well as a people against the novel coronavirus. Albeit ought to be cautious and wear a mask. Thanks to the razor-sharp Akufo-Addo leadership, a revamped, resilient economy, comprehensive, coordinated response plan, and a willing and motivated cadre of health personnel. The pre-COVID testament for the health sector had at its core the subject of jobs. Indeed, the theme for the 2016 manifesto was change, an agenda for jobs. And it came to pass that 90,696 health personnel were recruited in the first term of the Akufo-Addo government.
On the other side of the political divide, former President John Dramani Mahama has described the controversial Japan Mineral Royalties Agreement as a shady deal that amounts to theft, which he will not respect if voted into power. Parliament passed the agreement 2 weeks ago to allow the state to mortgage royalties from gold in exchange for a $500 million lump sum. Speaking to XYZ TV during his tour of the OT region. The former president said the agreement contravenes Ghana's money laundering laws. He accused President Akufo-Addo and his family members of acting with impunity.
If even as individuals we're not allowed to hide our money in tax havens, why will government of Ghana mortgage our gold royalties to a private company in which we have 51% shares? Some shady individuals we don't know have taken 49% shares. On what basis did they take those shares? The Japan is a very shady deal, and I'm saying if I become president, I will not respect that agreement. It is a theft of Ghanaians' royalties. It's against the money laundering rules, and if you even look at those who put the transaction together, they are people close to the president. Already almost $2 million have been paid to them. It looks like there's a certain impunity that has developed, and this president and his family and those around him think they can do anything and get away with it.
Well, that's it for the latest news update. We do have more news as we review the newspapers next. Myself and Gifty Ando-Apia will be right here. After that, we'll have Benedict Owusu in the studio with the latest highlights of the finals of the UEFA Champions League. Do stay with us. And that's Lagbagba. That is one of Stonebwoy's hits on his Angloga Junction album. And you can get onto YouTube, get onto his channel, and also get to listen to more or watch more videos of his Stonebwoy. And talking about YouTube, we do have a channel there, JoyNews TV. Please make sure you go check us out and subscribe and click those notification buttons so that when we do many of those uploads or we're streaming live, great content, you will be notified as to what they are. But it's on to your birthday today. Nana Sefachum, your communications consultant, had long years been in the UK, now resident in Ghana. I had to say that, look, right here from the AM show, we say have a great, happy birthday. Practicing journalist as well, someone with great experience, senior. Good morning to you, Nana Sefachum. Enjoy your birthday. As we move on, we have to do the newspapers. So we have the Custodian on the front page of the Custodian. We have NPP gears up for victory 2020. And this also has an attached picture of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president of our republic, and his vice president, all raising four fingers in the air, saying "4 more for Nana." I mean, invariably, that's what it refers to, or infers. And President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo there. We also have some attached picture of some scenes of party supporters who milled around the event ground on the campus of the University of Cape Coast on Saturday. Well captioned. Mahama lacks credibility on free SHS, a story again attributed to the president, Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo has performed wonders for NLA to get 30 million Ghana cedis from KGL, the Custodian newspaper. Is the front page, those stories we're highlighting. So front page of the Custodian, NLA to get 30 million Ghana cedis from KGL technology deal. And this, among others, are all stories we have on the front page of the Custodian. It will be on your screens very soon. You'll get to see the news paper as it is. On the back page, though, is about the 2020 NPP Manifesto Launch in photos or pictures. It says leadership of survey protecting our progress, transforming Ghana for all. That's the theme for the manifesto that was launched. Number of individual speakers there, mainly ministers, deputy ministers. We have the NPP General Secretary, John Boedu. We brought that to you live right here on the channel. Let's go to the Finder. The Finder has on the front page NPP's new agenda unveiled, leadership of service to transform Ghana. Up there, NPP will win 2020 poll for national interest. Kofor. Then we have President also commissioned $50 million Ekumfi fruit processing factory. 2020 elections to consolidate Ghana's peace and stability. A story again attributed to the president. Front page of the Finder. Let's go to the Daily Dispatch newspaper, managed by the experienced Beneficent, and has on the front page, "My target is Mahama, not Nana." President Akufo-Addo, according to the caption by the Daily Dispatch. Gwel, on the other hand, has increased its profit by some 29% in 2019 and year on year over the 2018 figure, based on its published reports. We also do have Akufo-Addo's government cares for the vulnerable. Chief of Staff and President commends Joe Gatti for transforming railways. And we know that a number of railway projects are being undertaken countrywide. Back page of the Daily Dispatch, we have Akufo-Addo teases NDC. You called it grass cutter house. Now SIP, now SIP. Okay, now SIP Ekumfi Jews, not SIP. Now SIP Ekumfi Jews. My target is Mahama. Again, that story well expatiated on the back page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Let's go to the Daily Graphic. I have to say, Daily Graphic has on a front page. Launch of 2020 Manifesto, NPP to do more. President, story found by Donald Atudapatim and Shelley Esiedu Addo from Cape Coast, the Central Regional Capital. And the story says, with a 10-word slogan, leadership of service, protecting our progress, transforming Ghana for the governing New Patriotic Party launches Election 2020 Manifesto. It contains a plethora of promises which it hopes to implement to build on achievements chalked up in its first term in government. Now, well, we also do a number of speakers. It's a 216-page document. If you peruse it, you get to know that it's very voluminous, as we've seen with the NPP as well as the NDC, I have to say, when it comes to the manifestos. Ghana's two big parties. Also on the front page, Ivor Green Street leads CPP into December elections. You have to say that the manifesto launch of the governing New Patriotic Party seemed to have drowned the electoral or the election events of the CPP over the weekend, but nonetheless, a number of actions took place for the CPP and some outcomes were made. We will apprise you soon of what the outcomes were. Ivor Green Street leads CPP into December elections, and we have a timber contractor murdered in Mim. Elizabeth Ohinido is editing the Daily Graphic on Thursday. We do know that the last week saw the editor of the Graphic, Kobi Asma, proceeding on leave. And so we had the acting editor being Theophilus Yate. Well, so we have the CPP launching their party manifesto, and saw a number of officers being elected. And we had Nana Jantua pulled the master stroke to defeat the acting General Secretary of the CPP, James Kwabena Bonfe, a.k.a. Kabila, I have to say, who was the other contestant. She polled 1,389 voters against 752 by the very vociferous Kwabena Bonfe. Landslide. We also had the national chairman position going to Nana Akosua Sapong Kumenkuma, who in 2012 had partnered the CPP's presidential hopeful Dr. Abu Sakara's running mate. Dr. Onzi Kwame Nkrumah was elected vice chair of the CPP after he polled 1,013 of the total votes cast, huge as well, while the other contestants, Messrs. Emmanuel Ugbojo and John Benjamin Daniels, received or just were able to poll some 720 and 377 respectively. Re-elected was Haja Aisha Sule Futa, who retained a position as the national women's organizer of the CPP. And Mr. Moses Ambing Yeremambo polled 1,485 to beat Rashid Alao, who also obtained some 665 votes to win the national organizer position. The national youth organizer position went to Osei Kofi Akwa, who beat Solomon Duncan Amponsa. And then we had Emmanuel Pariado winning treasurer position with some 1,488. So, well, landslide victories for those who were retained as well as those who were elected. Right. On the side, though, it's quite interesting because when you go to page 17 of the Daily Graphic, The big issue they have today on politics is about election security. He has an experienced lecturer, also with the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, Dr. Yao Gebe, senior lecturer there, also having their views on the major challenge that confronts Ghana when we're talking election security. Also, the General Secretary of the NDP is also quoted there, making his contribution also on the page about politics and election security. Henry Tasego, who is a teacher, is also featured there. And then Evans Nimako, Director of Elections and Research for the governing New Patriotic Party, also featured. We'll make a good read. If you have time, make sure you get onto the page of the Daily Graphic. Center spread features stories on the president inaugurating the sweet potato processing factory. I think they should have put the name there, Casa de Ropa. Casa de Ropa is a name that now has become a familiar name to all and sundry, especially. Okay, so we have Central Region's latest 1D, 1F project, 1F project, and alongside the president also went to the Ekunfi juice factory. He used to produce Eku juice. I don't know why it's still called Eku juice. I love that juice as well, I have to say. Danish ambassador bids farewell to the foreign minister. It's also in the center spread. And then we have one hot meal for BEC candidates and teachers beginning today. He has an attached picture of the Ghana Education Service Director General, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwa. And it says a presidential directive to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to provide one hot meal a day for all final year junior high school students and their teachers is beginning today. And according to a committee also headed by the Chief of Staff, Mrs. Akosia Frema Osei Opari, with membership including the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji, as well as that of the Ghana Education Service, whose picture you find attached. They already have drawn up the menu and the program for it. Okay, so to ensure the directive goes on effectively, the committee is assuring that they decided to use caterers who were providing food for primary school children under the school feeding program to cook the meals for the final year junior high school students and your teachers. One of the criticism was that the meals were not to home cho, they like home. But nonetheless, this is going to be done effectively. And according to Professor Opoku-Amankwa, the Director General for the Ghana Health Service, they will ensure that as this progresses under the Secondary Education Improvement Project, they also update the media subsequently. The project is being implemented with a World Bank credit facility of an initial $156 million with an additional financing of some $40 million, making in total $196 million being used to improve secondary education as well. It started in 2014 and was initially scheduled to end in 2019, but has been extended to year-end 2021, or next year, with the approval of the additional financing, $196 million. That's what it is. Meanwhile, monitoring will be done according to the Ghana Education Service, and the health officials on the committee also advised that every meal must have at least one egg, and they're hoping that this will be strictly adhered to. He dismissed doubts about the poultry industry's ability to meet the demand within the period, explaining that since the requirement was not a centralized one, poultry farmers within the various districts and localities should be able to supply the eggs. Okay, so that's a good thing for the local poultry industry. So within each catchment area, there will be the suppliers subsequently. On the back page, we're having stories about a community mining initiative, and it's expected to create about 100,000 jobs in 3 districts of the Ashanti region. A total of 420 concessions will be involved. It covers an area of some 3,000 acres, and they have been released by the Minerals Commission to small-scale miners. And it's about 70,000 direct jobs being created according to the Bekwai Municipal Assembly, the Adansia Sokwa District, and also the Adansi South District, all in the Ashanti region. And this is through the Community Mining Initiative. So that's a good thing as well. So we have the Minister of Lands and and Natural Resources, cautioning miners not to involve foreigners in their operations. He said the community mining or small-scale mining initiative was the sole preserve of Ghanaians, and as such, foreigners, irrespective of their origin, wealth, or resources, were not allowed to participate. Down there, well, we have the story emanating from the Wasi that's taking place. So we had court remanding 7 over Wasi impersonation. 7 persons, including 3 senior high school students of the English Manfro Senior High School in the Central Region, have been remanded by the Agona Sredu District Court for allegedly indulging an impersonation in the Wasi. It is a case of the impersonation of 5 of the accused persons impersonated. Also, 5 students of the Central Senior High School in the Agona Sredu area, and allegedly wrote the core subjects in the ongoing examination for the students. So they are said to have written the integrated science and the social studies papers and paper 2 of core maths, and were about to write paper 1 of the same subject on August 17 when they were arrested. Okay, so the 5 are Usman Ahmed, an administrator at the Central Senior High School, Clement Safo, unemployed, and 3 senior high school students, David Bawa, Garogin Danso, and then we have Desmond Odro, all accused. Quite interesting. Let's do the Daily Guide newspaper. Has on the front page, Nana punches Mahama. Senior high school credibility zero. NPP avails transformation manifesto. Down there, we have President opens a Kumfi Casa de Ropa factories in Central Region. That's more like it. Casa de Ropa. Casa de Ropa. Casa de Ropa. Yeah, good initiative there, I have to say. Casa de Ropa. You have to go to the factory one of these days to get to see what really they're up to. I'm hoping that my lead producer will enable us to go and see Mr. Obing Bafo, who is one of the shareholders, doing great work alongside his colleagues to make sure this came to fruition and they're continuing. Good morning to you, Mr. Obing Bafo. Derek Ekolsam says good morning to you. He says that you have to offer us another opportunity to visit Casa de Ropa, get to see what you're doing for the AM show. We'll do that. Also for JoyNews. Yeah, you know, radio and TV gets results. We'll be there this week. If you're watching, we'll be there this week via Richard Kwejo Nyako. Varsities gear up for return with disinfection. That's a good one. We know that Zoom Lion, as well as VectorPace, its subsidiary company, they've been doing this great work in collaboration with the Sanitation Ministry countrywide. Doing great work so far. NDC free primary health care promise meaningless, according to Dr. Bawumia. On the back page is all sports. Bechem United petition government for permission to train. Has an attached picture of the boss of the club, Kingsley Owusu. And then we have, I was tempted to be corrupt. Tony Yeboah, but he was not. Yeah. Charlie, you can't be living in Europe and be corrupt. Yeah, but choose here. Pamasak coach for low enthusiasm. You know, it be dull. So, you know, Europe, they need a chalo. They go sack you right now. No? So, Parma, they've dismissed coach Roberto Avesa 3 weeks after the end of the season. And the Serie A club, they announced. And now the 45-year-old coach just took charge of Parma when they were in the 3rd-tier Liga Pro in 2016 and earned consecutive promotions to restore the club to Serie A. But they announced that they relieved him of his role as first-team coach in a statement. This is a result of the fact that over the last few weeks, the cohesion, the unity of intent, harmony, and mutual enthusiasm, which have been so key to the successes achieved together over the last few years, the club owners are saying it seemed to have disappeared, even though he helped them from tier 3. Now they are, you know, up there, Charlie. Meanwhile, on the sidelines of what's happening in sports, Suarez begs for Barca stay. He says, I want to stay, even though he's old. He's 33 now. Yeah. I still want to stay. Gentlemen, biting ears. Catching balls that's supposed to be going into the goalpost. Ghana versus Uruguay. We won't forgive him. But he's a very good player. The Ghanaian Times has on the front page, towards December 2020 polls, retain MPP in power for 4 more years as president urges Ghanaians. The story, as we brought to you, that live coverage as well, you'll know that the content was right here on JoyNews. You can find it on myjoyline.com as well. Our YouTube channel is buzzing with a lot of the uploads for that live coverage and the after interactions and interviews that the team had with notable members of the governing New Patriotic Party, or on myjoyline.com, JoyNews TV on YouTube channel, and then also JoyNews on TV, our Twitter handle. Same goes for Facebook as well. You'll find it there. Please go look up for those stories and uploads. You'll love them. Ivor Greenstreet to lead CPP again. Anaya Jantwa elected General Secretary. On the side, reopening of tertiary institutions amid COVID-19. Education Ministry completes nationwide second phase disinfection exercise. Does it mean that we're all ready to go back to school? You know, my kids and everybody. Right, so see how it goes. September. NPP launches manifesto. We will construct airport harbour in Cape Coast. Yeah. Said that. Also on the back page, we have Northern Development Authority, though, also initiating 2,149 projects in 5 regions. National Inspectorate Board to be decoupled from the Ghana Education Service to make them effective, we're told. So we do have the new publisher having on the front page, senior high school student jailed over girlfriend. I will cancel Shady Ejapa deal, pro PDS, Mahama warns Ekufuado. That's the new publisher. On the side, we have radio presenter dupes ex-employers, absconds with over 50,000. Now, it's the name of a lady whose picture is inserted. Odike ministers to meet in mortuary. Ghana tabloids. They be. Let's do the Daily Statesman newspaper. Has on the front page, your presidency was disaster. Ekufuado honored with Chief of Development and Truth. On the side, we have postgraduate research gets 1.5 million Ghana cedi boost. Down there, Ekufuado slams Mahama on comeback bid. We've delivered or a mandate. Bawumia tout MPP's achievements. On the back page, highlight in pictures. Yeah. Well, let's go to myjoyline.com. Get you a prize with the latest update as we have it. You can find a lot more there. So myjoyline.com will give you all the highlights of news or content that is produced right here on JoyNews, Joy FM, and the rest of the multimedia channels as well. You get all the updates and the main story. So we have the story there. No new project will be initiated in my first year as president. Meaning he will continue with existing projects as he inherits them. So other stories also on myjoyline.com. Greenstreet registered landslide victory to lead CPP into 2020 election. I will investigate PDS deal if voted into power. According to John Dramani Mahama, infrastructure debate, project tracking, verification, not available. CDD says both NPP and NDC. All the noise you are making, how to verify your claims is not, the tracking system is not available. One district, one factory is putting money in people's pockets. Alote Jacobs, former Central Regional Chair of the NDC, says it was at Casa de Ropa. And then a Kumfi juice. Okay, Ghana's active COVID-19 cases now 1,712 with 261 fatalities or deaths so far. Well, we'll also play back beyond the lockdown discussions. NPP's 2020 Manifesto, MFAPO, moderator that. So we've changed from Asase to Ijapa because of how common Asase was. Deputy Finance Minister. Car dealers to demonstrate against Customs Amendment Act on Thursday. And this is what they do. They give you 3 days lacuna. Come with further and better particulars, government, so that we won't go on the demonstration on Thursday. So from today, Tuesday, Wednesday, they are there. Meanwhile, Multimedia Said Ali Yaqub finally laid to rest at Jamasi. May he still rest in peace. We had a great team or delegation led by the general manager, child of the cluster, all represented. Araba Kumsin was also there. Derek Ekosam was there as well. The whole team, Patrick Gomez, Charlie, it's a great team. Lord Mensah, all of them were there. Well, so that'll be it for now. Please make sure you get all the updates on our social media platforms. But right now, we have Benedict Owusu with the latest sports headlines. And we told you we're talking the manifesto launch of the governing New Patriotic Party. It took place on Saturday. We had the great coverage right here. Lord Mensah, Winston Amwa, Daniel Datse, as well as on ground, Emefa Apao, bringing to you the best as far as some of the great previews, great analysis, and then also what the on-ground issues were. And post the event, we also had some great highlights. But today, this is what we wanted, great analysis and also some better perspective coming from some notable observers, either in think tank or in academia, just to give a broader context to all that has transpired over the last 2 days. As we do that, we'll bring you some highlights from the event, from some of those notable speakers, including the Vice President, the President, and the other speakers. So I have the President of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo, joining us. Dr. Lord Mensah Dr. Lord Mensah is with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School, and then Dr. Kwame A-Plus, lecturer, the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. All three of them are on screen. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning.
I'm good, Franklin. Yeah. And let me start with you, Franklin. Your observations generally, but just in summary of what transpired on Saturday. How would you describe what transpired on Saturday, just shortly?
Well, thank you very much. I think that it was a beautiful ceremony, but the substance of it was that the NPP had learned its lessons and so did not promise a big bang. In fact, they were more measured, especially because a significant amount of their manifesto promises are yet to be fully implemented. So I think they were measured, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, I said on Saturday that we moved away from sloganeering into talking about the things that impact people generally. So I was indeed impressed that we moved away from the high-octane spin and sloganeering with which we launched these manifestos.
Dr. Lord Mensah, you?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I would say yes, it is a display of achievements. Obviously, categorization was clear, looking at the macro achievement that they've chalked, and then looking at the micro. And then if I should quote the Vice President by saying that is a development for all. I mean, touching every aspect of the economy, more or less inclusive, growth that they want us to experience. But then whilst they're coming up with this inclusive growth, they don't want to lose the fact that, they need to make sure that every aspect of the macro is touched on. And then his differentiation of development, looking at the urban type of development, and ensuring that development catches up with, those at the local level. For me, it is very, very important. I would say, yes, we've come to understand the various categorizations of development. But then I have several questions, and I think as we delve deeper into this conversation, we should be able to unravel some of them.
Dr. Asasante. Your summary of your observations on Saturday. Please unmute for me, Dr. Sasante. Please go ahead, Dr. Sasante. Just unmute and go ahead with your summary. Great. Go ahead. Seem to have lost your audio, even though you have unmuted. Okay, so you can hear me, right? But I can hear you. Yeah. All right. So Franklin, there were some notable highlights. You get to find that on the welfare side, we're still very much on making sure that the freebies are on, but also this time loading it with a lot of infrastructural promises. Now, the related subject of infrastructure, what difference would you say some of these intended promises or policies differed from what the NPP had made in the 2016 electioneering, in terms of scope, in terms of the ability to be able to achieve them within time?
Well, first of all, we need to establish the fact that the NPP had promised that they were going to undertake access for jobs for a lot of people and then create an inclusive society. And I think one of the vehicles was also to build some infrastructure. I think the area where they've done creditably well is the digital space. I mean, digitization efforts, however however minimal they are, you could see incremental, growth in that sector. And I think that is their biggest trump. The fact of the matter is that the investing in digitalization creates a much more, enhanced, if you like, benefit rather than most of these physical structures, which unfortunately they are lagging behind that of the NDC. But I think that their path essentially is the digitalization, which is useful. I saw that they make frantic efforts to ensure that the Ministry of Communication and the NCA was coming along with this whole habit of, if you like, reducing the internet data cost by doing away with not just the 19 cents per minute call, which encourages SIM-box fraud, but also the fact that they are going to look at the licensing regime for spectrum licenses. And I think it's useful. Ghana is one of the highest cost countries when it comes to spectrum licensing. It's the only reason why it was difficult for the private sector to get into the business of ensuring that the promise the NPP made of ensuring free senior high schools being connected to the Wi-Fi was realized. In fact, you hear that they now want to have the ECG take advantage of that and also ensure that this thing is done. I would rather urge them to ensure the private sector does it once they've relaxed these entry barriers for some of these significant players. I think it was also instructive to hear that the 19% charge was creating an arbitrage, rather than the fraudulent claims by the Ministry of Communications that Kelly GBG was going to solve it. The fact of the matter is that the Bawumia-led administration has now realized, in fact, they already knew that the best way to solve SIM-box fraud was not through erecting another fictitious entity, but actually doing away with the arbitrage of 19 cents. And so all of these culminates in the fact that their focus and their trump card is actually optimizing the space within the digitization space. And I think that will be their trump card going forward. Unfortunately, sometimes the policy angle does not meet the politics. So Bawumia's big push in the enhanced paperless spot, for instance, was a major thing. It brought in incremental revenue until Osafo Mafu and Co decided that they were not having any of it and brought in some very arcane process called Unipass, which has unfortunately destroyed Bawumia's, digitization effort at the port. I'm totally mortified. And I think if the government wants to do well going forward, if they win the elections, is to do away with these hydra-headed interventionist approach by some political opportunistic dinosaurs who then tend to dissuade and distract from the clear agenda that the Bawumia side of the government is actually pursuing. So to answer a question as to whether these have all created the inclusiveness that we want, the inclusivity, I think Dr. Lord Mensah will tell you that the multidimensional poverty index, however timed it is, tells you clearly that we are yet to unlock the benefits from these infrastructure projects or these interventions that we make. So it's very clear that we need to target these interventions properly.
And Dr. Lord Mensah, one of, I would say, the achievements that 2016 and its promises that was translated into the governance sector by the NPP administration is trying to tighten the fiscals, making sure that they improve on expenditure and then the various variables. Now, it's also been touted as one of the achievements as well. If we have to broaden then the conversation, say digitization is the way to go, how then do we fuse that with what the objective should be if they should win the election and govern for another 4 years? Unmute.
Sorry, very clear. I think digitization, of course, we expect some benefits out of it because it is an investment that is going out of the public purse. And I was happy and enthused to hear one leverage on this digitization, which the vice president indicated that very soon university students will be, taking up student loan without necessarily having guarantors. Because if you look at, the old days when we're going to the university, when we used to go and stand in front of where workers are being paid at Achimkede, to, trap them to sign, for us. I would tell you that, yes, the essence of these are some of the, leverages. It all boils down to identification, identifying the student who is being financed during his time at school. So if going forward, like Franklin said, we are about to, realize the benefit of some of these digitizations. And if going forward, we are able to consolidate and ensure that some of these digitization, like the property address that we've had some time ago, which is still stuck on our phones. If you ask me offhand to give you those addresses, I can't give you. For me, I see it to be so primary. If we are going to build it up, ensure that if someone tells you he lives somewhere around Botiano, you should be able to get a certain, code that is more related to identify the person's house. It should be able to go a long way to help us. So for me, I think we are creating the base of the economy, and we are yet to realize some of this benefit that goes with this digitization. It is good. It is an investment we are making, but until we consolidate it and it fits into revenue collection, I've chanced upon going through the, the manifesto, and I've realized one thing, which for me, I would like to always question it. You could see that in the preparedness to, lower the fiscal space, the manifesto did not do much about, expenditure control. Expenditure control. All the effort with the digitization were being on, revenue collection and revenue collection. And if the revenue collection is not well, integrated and possibly looking at how we are fusing, national identification to revenue collection, for me, I think we'll have a long way to go. And so we have to be careful how we go about these things. I think the next 4 years, we should come and draw all the portfolios of digital investment that we've done, put them together and see how we can consolidate them and see how it will fit into revenue collection, whilst we turn up to be moderate in our expenditure. And
frankly, if you look at some of the promises to make sure maybe a port is built here, whether it's an airport or is a landed port, whether it's a small project, etc., it also means that there's a certain focus on building infrastructure directly. Have we seen in this manifesto a certain connection between what the objectives of building infrastructure and how some of these facilities could, at the end of the day, pay for themselves? or how we're going to redeem that by way of the revenues, whether it's from the external sources or from the internal sources, frankly.
But before I answer that quickly, let me just latch on to what Dr. Lord Mensah said about the intentions to, if you like, try to mobilize funding. In the manifesto, you do see some intent in order to create additional revenue through the digitizing valuation, well, continue the digitization of our land administration, as well as the valuation rules. I mean, those are very powerful interventions. If done properly, would help boost local revenue mobilization. But you see, the challenge is that the challenge that this tries to solve is the fact that on the Doing Business Index of the World Bank, we've not been doing quite well. In fact, in 2020, we were 118th. In 2019, we were 118th. In 2017, we were 114th. And then we were 120th in 2017. But in 2016, we were 108th. In fact, the years before, we were hovering in almost 62nd, 63rd, or 87th position, which means that the business environment, unfortunately, has not done properly. And the reasons they cite is because one of them is what? The lack of property registration procedures. Registry of property is a difficult thing. And of course, paying a tax, and indeed the issues about enforcing contracts. Now, all of these are connected to this intervention to continue the focus on land administration and what is called digitization of the land valuation process to increase revenue. The problem has to be the payment of tax procedure, which we need to solve. Back to your question. You see, every infrastructure development or investment must yield an additional return. You just don't invest in infrastructure for the purposes of doing so, which is why we have always called for the what's it called, the budget line items, indeed, for the Agenda 111, if you like, the project, hospital projects. The haste to erect all these facilities across the country is not matched by the measured approach of, first of all, ensuring private partnership approaches to managing these entities so that these entities will be sustainably, kept. That's one. The other thing we don't know about is whether the loans to be used in building this will be concessionary or they will be commercial. If it is commercial, then at what rate? Which would be really useful because the commercial enterprise process would ensure that these things are managed properly. The question about and again, this latches on to the conversation about putting an airport in Cape Coast. Absolutely not sensible, for the simple reason that, look, I mean, there's an airport already in Takoradi. There's one in Accra. The problem is about fixing the roads between here and Accra, between Accra and Cape Coast, so that within 45 minutes, people can travel. You don't go and spend close to $60 million or something to build an airport, which unfortunately may not provide jobs for so many people. I mean, I was mortified to hear some of the residents suggest that they needed an airport, international airport, simply because Cape Coast is a touristic destination. Not true. I mean, I do not think that Cape Coast, one of the 4 hardcore poverty areas in the country, would as part of the central region, would be looking up to infrastructure deficits rather than things that would help them. I would have thought they would have insisted that some of that money should be used in resuscitating Commander Sugar Factory, which needs not less than $100 million to resuscitate it, which would include also building 1,000-acre land that will grow sugar cane. Things that people can connect with, not fictitious non-essentials like the airport. And I'm saying that we don't need the airport because Accra and Cape Coast Accra, Cape Coast, Takoradi, Cape Coast are already interlinked. The best thing to do is to fix the road. And I think the railway sector could also be useful. Look, you spend almost an hour in traffic before you get to the airport in Accra, traveling to Cape Coast or traveling to any part of the country. Meanwhile, flying from Accra to Cape Coast will take just about 20 minutes. Why would you want to spend all that time in traffic when you can easily dualize the roads and reduce all the traffic. So we are putting the cart before the horse, and I think it's one of the most, it could be one of the most, not thought through promises at all. And I think I heard the president suggest that some proper introspection ought to be made before the promise is made. How that transmogrified into a 24-hour promise being delivered is another matter.
Dr. Mensah, at the end of the day, infrastructure is important. And the question about how we're able to not only maintain, but also get value for money by way of redeeming whatever initial investment still holds. How would you respond to that, apart from what Franklin said?
So unmute his mic. Lord, you need to unmute your mic.
Lord,
sorry, Roland, sorry.
Yeah.
I would say that, yes, infrastructure, yes, we know Africa yearns for infrastructure. I mean, the World Bank is very much aware of it. And it's not something that you can just jump and say you are putting anything anywhere at any time. In fact, sometimes when you talk about infrastructure, the manner in which the timing, let me put it that way, the timing, sometimes the deferment of the infrastructure in itself is more beneficial than putting it there. And then more so you're looking at the economic spillovers of the infrastructure. Now, if you want to place an infrastructure at a particular place, you have to look at the financial benefit. Of course, there's money that is going into, these infrastructure structures. And so you would like to reap the benefit to cover up this, what you put in there, taking into consideration the interest rate, if you were to invest the money, possibly sitting somewhere in treasury bills and then relaxing. And then you also have to look at the economic benefit, the possible economic activities that will be created for government to benefit from, maybe taxes and all those. Then there is also a social dimension that you also need to look at, Now, with all this put together, if you are going to put a public structure and you cannot have all these three-dimensional benefits, I tell you, we will not, it will not be something that you have to look at. Now, I think you asked this question by focusing on what came up at the Manifesto Launch, where, a promise was made on putting up airports at, Cape Coast. Now, you ask yourself, there's a reason why, economic reason why you have, if you travel on the road from Accra without much delay, all the way to Cape Coast, you could see that there could be some spillovers of economic activities on the highway, right? Now, if you develop these roads, instead of allowing people to fly within 20 minutes or within 30 minutes to Cape Coast, you realize that doing the feasibility studies, where you give alternatives for such investment, you will come to understand that traveling on the road will be more beneficial than looking at just, flying. Now, I'm talking about economic spillovers because I've seen a situation where the tourists, will be traveling to Cape Coast. Sometimes they make stopovers at Winneba. Sometimes they make stopovers at our mall at my junction here. What's the name? West Hills Mall. And by so doing, they spill over some activities there. Maybe they would like to buy some one or two things. Maybe a fuel station has been put up on the highway. Maybe they would like to buy some, a fuel station. So there's a reason why, traveling, we have roads and then we have, by air. Now, you have to look at the economic, the financial, and the social benefits of all this before you really go into such structures. And like I said earlier, the positioning of infrastructure is very, very important. You don't just get up and put anything anywhere. Now, look at how many hours it would take you from Cape Coast to Takoradi, and then how many hours it would take you from, Cape Coast to, Accra. For you to decide and say, hey, I'm going to put up airport at, Cape Coast. For me, I don't think it will make any economic sense. I don't foresee the financial benefit. I don't foresee the social benefit that will come out of it because, the expertise or how many people would the airport be employing, within the Cape Coast catchment area. So I think, we have to be careful. We need infrastructure, all right. But sometimes the timing, and apart from the timing, the scaling, the size of the infrastructure is very, very important. Sometimes you may like to construct maybe a 3-lane road. You have every option to say that, okay, fine, the 3-lane road will have an option to expand to a 6th lane in case the traffic should increase. So we can't just, be pumping money anyway, anyhow, because we want to make some political deliveries at the end of the day without generating anything for the country. I would have, if you look at the manifesto, several of the promises that were made in infrastructure, you could see that they are yet to be delivered. And so I would have concentrated more on the those that are yet to be delivered, and then ascertain the impact it will make before I think of going beyond that. So if you ask me, I would say that we have to be careful how we prioritize our infrastructure delivery.
Now,
otherwise, economics will not be in there.
Now, Dr. Kwame Asante is still on stream and joining us. Now, Dr. Asante, if you take a look at some of these policy intentions, which of course in a manifesto are promises, they also rub off politically the political party. And herein we're talking the governing NPP. How do you look at the nuances of what the promises are, how viable they are economically, but also how politically it wraps off you positively at the polls? And so you have to make a statement and a policy intention nonetheless.
Good morning once again, Roland. I hope now you can hear me. Is it okay?
Very well, sir. Very well.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Can you hear me?
Very well. Very well.
There's always a link between promises and that of, if you like, voter choices. And one of the things that voters consider when they want to give parties their vote is things that will benefit them. So if you look at what NPP has done in terms of their manifesto, they've been able to touch on every aspect of the Ghanaian life so as to be able to deliver some economic, political, and social benefit to the people. That is a good thing. But there are some of the programs, or if you like, the intentions that are also questionable. For instance, if you look at the issue of airports in Cape Coast, it is a laudable idea, but I think it's early days yet. The people of Cape Coast and generally the region is one of the poorest areas in Ghana. And we expect that the party looking for power will want to bring out a policy that will build their capacity, their economic capacity to take advantage of that facility that they will build there. Why am I saying this? Poverty is very, very high in Central region. So help them to build economic capacity so that at the end of the day, they will be able to take advantage of the facilities themselves. We are not looking at a situation where only, tourists will come and patronize the facility. We want the people of Ghana, Cape Coast or Central region to be able to take advantage of this even though we are expecting foreigners to come and then use the facility. Before they come, we take advantage. So I believe that that is something that the government has to look at again. One of the areas in the manifesto that also is good to talk about is going back to the conversation on whether we want to have election at the grassroots. I'm talking about district assembly election that you want to take the power from the president to appoint MMDCs to give power to the people. It is a good thing. We lost that point in the earlier conversation. I believe that it is one of the things that I think is proper to bring it to the fore for the state to discuss it in detail so that we take advantage of this. Why am I saying this? If you look at power distribution and its use in Ghana, the executive has huge powers that we need to be able to curtail it if we want to ensure that our institutions work to perfection. And this is one of the clear means by which we can do that, so that there are a lot of DCs, MMDCs that we can put into office, and they will determine the focus and direction of politics at the grassroots. That is one interesting aspect of it. So I think that for starters, these are my remarks.
Well, we have to now go to Manuel Kranting. He is a correspondent on ground. We're roving this morning. We're also looking at what the ordinary Ghanaians' perspective is on this manifesto launch by the ruling NPP. Now over to you, Manuel. What do you have for us? Manuel, what do you have for us?
Well, Roland, so I'm right in front of the Independent Arc here in Accra, and I've been trying to get a few comments, if you like, reactions from general public, really, on the NPP's manifesto. They christened it Protecting Our Progress, Transforming Ghana for All. Well, are people happy with what they had? Are people elated by the sort of policies and programs that the NPP government wants to implement in its second term if it should win the December polls? I have with me a few gentlemen who have been able to catch up with, well, Alexander, Promise, and then Karim are all here. We'll be speaking to them very briefly to find out what they also think of the manifesto as was outdoored by the NPP over the weekend. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming through. This one has to be very quick and brief. I want to pick, initially your reactions to the NPP's manifesto. They say that they are protecting our progress and transforming Ghana for all. Were you impressed by what you heard and saw last Saturday?
Okay, I was really impressed by what I saw last Saturday. The rate at which the program was organized was top-notch. We could see the social distancing protocols being observed, everybody wearing the masks because of the era in which we are in. Moving forward, I think the manifesto brought in new angles, which I think we're going to delve in. But nonetheless, they also projected the gains they've made over the 3.5 years since they won that social contract with the Ghanaian people. So for me, I picked some excerpts of the manifesto.
Well, let's quickly delve into those. What are the excerpts that you picked, and your impressions about this one?
Yeah, looking forward, the housing system has to do with the Rental Act, the National Rent Act. You remember the Vice President mentioned that 100 million Ghana cedis fund is going to be put there so that a private partnership can come in. Looking at that, currently you can see that people are struggling. A lot of people, like young Ghanaians, I don't know for yourself if you stay on your own, people are struggling to pay for rent. Businesses are very struggling to pay for rental spaces in commercial properties and residential properties. So something like this coming up, and currently what we need is a better understanding of what the Vice President said with regards to the Rental Act in the housing system. I think if we get a better understanding and the laws work assiduously, we are going to enjoy the benefit of that process.
Well, I'll come back to talk to you about what people say that, let's enforce the current status quo, which is a 6-month, advance payment, which is currently not being enforced. Why introduce a new policy to correct a failure, for want of better expressions? But I promise I'll come to you briefly. Let me go to Karim. Karim, let me take your initial thoughts on the manifesto as was presented by the NPP over the weekend.
All right, thank you very much, Manuel, and a very good morning to all viewers out there. I think that every party presents a manifesto, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is not the presentation of the manifesto, but the implementation of the plans in the manifesto. So if you come and present a beautiful manifesto, and at the end of the day, we do not see you fully implement, you can't do everything, but implement to a maximum extent the things that you have made mention of, then everybody would be happy. But even a quick one, just on the issue of rent, I have a very huge issue with that, because I don't think that young people need loans to be able to pay for rent. They only need an effective system to be able to pay for rent on their own. And imagine that if I have to pay rent of 100 Ghana cedis a month and you give me 6 months, which is just 600 cedis, even as a national service personnel, I should be able to afford that. But if landlords are asking me to pay 1 year, 2 years in advance, then it becomes a problem. So what I think the government should have thought of should have been to fully implement the Rent Act that allows for people to pay just 6 months of rent in advance. And I think that if we do something like that, then we wouldn't need to institute any loans for anybody. Because if you give me a loan, how do I even pay back? When I'm done with national service and I don't have a job, you know, but if I'm making some 559, I can reserve some 600 cedis to pay for 6 months in advance and start saving every month, you know, 100 cedis towards the next month. That's what I think about that particular, you know, bit on rent.
Let me come to Promise. Well, Karim says that the rent bit of the manifesto, as was presented by Vice President Bawumia, he has a problem with that. I don't know what Promise is thinking when he heard of the plans, the policies and programs of the NPP going to the next election.
I want to say a very good morning to your viewers, and I'm a sports person, so I always like to be in the confines of my expertise, which is sports. And going forward on Saturday, looking into the manifesto, the NPP had presented a very fantastic manifesto overall. But when it comes to sports, what they said they would do in 2016, what they did over the course of the effort that we gave them was not really pleasing. And then you come back to access for the mandate to do something else in sports after you've not even finished what you've accessed to give it a mandate and you will do. It shows that the NPP government has little or no respect for sports. And as every growing economy, if you neglect the sporting sector of the economy, that economy fails. And we give it in the year 2010, even golf was able to give Australia $2 billion in fundings, which means that when government turns their attention to the sport, we could be raising serious capital instead of debts, with the that's accumulated over the previous years, which is very, very appalling to everything.
When you say the NPP government does not respect sport, what do you mean? COVID came crashing down on a lot of football, teams and so on. The government has cushioned them. That's enough consideration for the sporting sector. I don't think so.
No, you see, COVID didn't only strike Ghana. COVID struck the whole world. But in EPL, okay, just in England, in EPL, the sporting sector, we're making about 600 million every year, even during COVID. It shows you that COVID or no COVID, people are willing to purchase good products. You understand me? And a Ghana sporting product is not being managed well by both the ministry, the GFA, and the NSA. And it shows you that the government has neglected it. I want to give you, for example, in 2016, the government gave us 8 promises that when they come into power, they will fulfill the sporting sector. But out of those 8 promises, they only accounted for 4 in the just ended manifesto launch. It shows that the remaining 4 was neglected completely. And even the 4 that they've accounted for, even if you want to go into the details, which we will do very shortly, you realize that even those 4, there's a problem with it. It shows that the government is not taking the sporting sector seriously.
They're building center of excellence and sports complexes, about 10 across the entire country, and that is to improve, youth engagement in the sport and so on and so forth. That's some sort of, interest in sports, no?
Manu, for every growing sporting industry in every country, there are 4 things that must be taken into consideration. Number 1 is infrastructure. Number 2 is revenue. Number 3 is a working structure, like what Germany did for them to win the 2014 World Cup. It means that this country, our infrastructure in sport is number 1, very, very poor. Listen, just last year, okay, Black Bombers, which is the boxing team, went to qualify for all African games. And up to today, their salary, their per diem, which is about $50 per day, they were there for 10 days, has not been paid.
Interesting. Let me I'll come back to you. Interesting revelations that you're making there. Smith, Karim does not agree with the rent bit of the manifesto and so on. But away from rent, though, what other things caught your eye and caught your attention?
Looking at the tourism sector, you remember the government promised to build national theaters across the 10 regions at that time. And as of now, we don't know where the theaters are even situated. They also mentioned, I saw in the manifesto, I've taken my time to look at some of the highlights, and they talk about the Koforidia one which they're building. For me, I was expecting them to revamp some of the old existing ones which has already been there. For instance, you go to Kumasi, when you go to Kumasi Cultural Center, there's a cultural center there which has been dictated for a long while. So I was expecting government to probably revamp those sectors so as to boost the tourism and creative arts industry. Looking at creative arts, every day, every year every government comes promises, but we see little improvement in that sector. Fine, we can give them the benefit of the doubt. We can give them that 100% score for the year of return. That was a broad initiative from government. We saw diaspora people coming in. But nonetheless, look at our tourist sites. How well did they, make that appealing to these diaspora people?
Well, Manuel Cranton there, but it's where we come back to the studio to get our conclusive comments from our three guests. Now, let me start with you, Franklin Kujo. How well are we in our own minds if we say, whether we're right or wrong, that we want to benchmark this manifesto with the 2016 one by way of what the deliverables are, if we want to do the assessment as voters?
As a think tanker, as a think tank entrepreneur, I stay in the middle. Fortunately for viewers and for you and for my good friends on the link, the three gentlemen who were just interviewed, Karim, Promise, and the other guy I've forgotten. By the way, I need their contacts because I think they provided not just streetwise views, but also very academic views as well. And I think that is all you really need. The issue really is that what impacts all these things must have impact on people. Where I sit, I tend to think that promises like the rent advance, wherever useful it is a microcosm of an economy that is resilient. I mean, if you build a resilient economy, people will be able to eke out a living and may be able to buy insurance against these kinds of things. But you see, Karim did say something that was useful. That what about actually ensuring that the Rents Act is put into practice? But that is what every civilized country does. On the African continent, we have lots of countries, even Zimbabwe, however decrepit and run down the economy is. You are not asked to pay 3 years in advance. Nobody does that. And I think we need to focus on those. On the question as to what I think about the previous manifesto and the current one, well, as of 2019, the manifesto still returned a 48.78% of manifesto achievements that have been cleared. It may increase. We are going to give the final scorecard in October, and so we'll rather wait. And I'm sure your network would always, as always, partner us in delivering that result.
Now, Dr. Lord Mensah, for example, when you go through the new manifesto, there are certain indicators as to, for example, one district, one factory, which stage they are, etc. These benchmarking with the previous one, as we go into the election, are we well within our right to be saying that you promised this, you didn't achieve this, and even your new one doesn't even talk about an existing one at all? Unmute, please.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
From the manifesto, yes, the party has indicated that they've achieved 80% of their promises. And for me, that is from their perspective. I think a research needs to be launched to get to know whether indeed they've achieved that 80% or not. Now, I'm looking at, you see, having a promise and the realization of the promise, and then the impact of that promise that you made. Now, there's a difference between cutting a sword, difference between, having a structure to a point, and then also looking at the impact those structures are making. And I believe that the government should launch, what we call impact assessment, study. I mean, I can give you, for the benefit of our viewers, I can give you a typical example where a borehole was sited. I always give this example in my class. A village, was being provided with a borehole, and the borehole was, supposed to be sited at a strategic, point, because the women in the village are comfortable, walking a long distance to go and fetch water and gossiping about, themselves. And so this woman, the borehole was sited just at the end of, the last house, of the village. And can you believe that this woman, in the village, is a woman who goes to, and the kids who goes to fetch water. And so they were bypassing the borehole every now and then to go and fetch the water from where they used to fetch their water. So that should tell you that before the borehole was sited, the people were not interviewed. The people they did not ascertain why they need that borehole and the best location for the borehole so that they can benefit from. So you realize that an investment has been made, but then in the end, that investment is not making any impact in that village. So I would say that I think it's too early to be talking about, what you promise the people and the impact that it is making on them. If you cut a sword and then you declare your intention that you want to place, an asset for a particular society somewhere, and in the end, you capture that as part of your deliveries, I'm afraid to say that, yes, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. And I believe the people themselves, by December 7th, will determine whether indeed what you brought to them is making impact in their lives or not. So I believe in one thing, like I said, there's a difference between a promise and a realization. Now, if we are to go by, what is being realized as we speak now from the 2016 manifesto, I think the 80% is overly stated. I'll put it that way.
And now, Dr. Sante, on the governance side or transparency side, is also the issue of what the assessment will be from the voters. And I know that even in the Fourth Republic, for example, the NDC, before the Mills administration came in, one of the key deliverables they wanted to see in health was that there was going to be a one-time payment. It was left totally in the 2012 manifesto of the NDC, okay? And so we've seen all these replated in the Fourth Republic. How will voters make that choice based on what they thought you should have delivered and you have not when they go to the polls? Just shortly, let's say in 3 minutes if you can.
Yes, it's a very simple matter. If you talk about things you've done, it is out there for the public to see and from whom you will be able to make judgment. So if you talk about infrastructure, you can't hide them in your rooms. They are out there. The public will see, and based on that, they'll make informed choices. I want a conversation to be broadened now that the highlights have come, for us to touch on governance issues. Let them throw more light on them. For instance, when you look at the issue of corruption, very little was said about that. But if you read reports from Afrobarometer, CDD, and whatnot, corruption is gaining prominence. We want to see more information. We want to get more information on that, about how government deals with that. The issue of infrastructure is important because if you go to the directive principle of state policy, it is to be expanded to every sector of this country. We want to see more in that area in terms of what? Education. It talks about media commission and the fact that government want to strengthen media commission to be able to protect journalists in the course of their work. We want to get more information about that because we know how government should be able to do in order to help the Media Commission to perform its duty as required by the Constitution. We must be able to give Media Commission the teeth to bite and strengthen its capacity to do the work for us. Of course, employment is critical and it's part of the consideration for voters. And yes, government has done a lot by providing jobs, but we need more because day in, day out, we churn out students who come out and they are without jobs. They need jobs to survive so as to take care of some of the petty things that affect their lives. And of course, I want to still go back to the conversation about MMDCs, their appointment.
Okay.
We want to take that power from government and give it to the people so that politics will be delivered at the grassroots and owned by the people at that grassroots so that our democracy will be strengthened as we move along.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Richard. Dr. Kwame A-Plus is senior lecturer, the Political Science Department, the University of Ghana, helping us with the discussions as well. Franklin Kujo is president, Imani African founding member as well. And then we have Dr. Lord Mensah, the Finance Department, the University of Ghana Business School. All of you, kudos to you. As and when we need you to broadly look at this 216-page document, we could have done that in just an hour, 40 minutes. So we'll come back to you again. Thank you, gentlemen. And I know that you all help us do the discussion, the analysis on many respected issues of national concern. But it's where also we'll take a break. When we come back, somebody who has been very vociferous, a big critic, apparently, of the Kufuor-led government, even though he has great admiration for the president himself, well, has bigger things to say in this interaction we had with him. It's a typical case of what needs to be said, what needs to be done, and a great time for advocacy. And this time, we're speaking to a personality who has now become one of the fulcrum around which we have many conversations when it comes to politics, human development, and what good governance should be. Okay? We also do know it's an electioneering. Party manifesto has been launched for the governing New Patriotic Party, but there's a bigger conversation, as we also have on the other side, people gravitating towards the opposition NDC. How do we make sure that those who are in the middle or on the sidelines are listened to? One person who has become very vociferous in his views, thinking that the thought of leadership should be for the people, by the people, and also doing good by the people, is Kwame A-Plus. I'll speak to him very soon. And one of the fundamental things I would want to ask Kwame A-Plus is why over a 10 to 15-year period he seems to have changed his color, his character, and his persona. Well, let me invite Kwame A-Plus. Kwame, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Yay.
This is a new way of greeting.
This is a new way of greeting. Yeah. Now, I wanted to ask you this question. Are you a chameleon? Have you become a chameleon? Let's say if we take you 10 years ago up to now, or even 12 years ago, in terms of what your political views are, what you think should be done right by the people.
I think that what I have done consistently is to be against every government, and I'm very happy about that. I've always been, because the politicians promise one thing, we believe them, and they come to power and do another. So I've always been against the government because they will never do what they say they will do. There are few instances where they do what they say they will do. And that is what makes me happy. Everybody in Ghana knows that, like you're saying, since 2001, I have always been against who is in power, because all of us know that who is in power has never done what they promised to do.
Yeah. So you just want to be different. You're somebody who is a middle ground person.
No, I'm just me. I've just been who I am. Everybody votes and they go and they sleep. And the politicians promise heaven and earth and they don't care. And they don't care about their tax money. I care. I care about my money.
Just before we came on air, and indeed, I have liked your page on Facebook, and so I constantly get notifications on my timeline whenever you make a posting.
Especially when I'm doing a video at the beach.
And I know that we'll have many things to talk about in the next 30 to 35 minutes, but people think that, you know, you were well known as a musician. Then you became even most known because you got very much attached to the opposition leader then, now the president of our republic, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, why is it that you seem to be at variance with his governance style?
The president taught us to do that when he became president of Ghana. Out of all the men that NPP as a party has, he decided to choose Martin Amidu, a founding member of the opposition, as a special prosecutor. He's somebody who likes people who are honest, he's somebody who likes people who are truthful, he's somebody who likes people who are principled. So if Nanado has chosen Martin Amidu as a special prosecutor, and you expect me not to tell the truth, or not to be principled, or not to, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
You know, the last time when we had this Tracy Boachi issue, and then there was a rebuttal that you had a sexual intercourse, some sexual relations with her, and etc. And you came in, and was it toffee you were chewing or something of the sort? Or
honey.
So I mean, it was almost like much ado about nothing.
Yeah, like I've had so many sexual intercourses, so many. I'm putting it. I've had a lot.
So you're saying it doesn't matter.
If you are talking about something that I had 10 or so years ago, that is a waste of everybody's time. I have had a lot. In fact, apart from having sexual intercourse, I've done almost everything. I have smoked weed before. I've done everything. That is not important. What is important is that somebody says that they're going to build factories. John Mahama is promising everything, including, I'm sure soon he'll promise one man, one Viagra. You understand?
Yeah, he wants to pay assembly members.
He wants to pay, yes. Okay. So these are issues that are important. These are issues that we should talk about. If you come and say, oh, A-Plus had a girlfriend, how does that affect your very life? How does that affect the economy of Ghana? We have to get serious.
Okay. Now, let's talk pre-2017. You were very much into the Nanado refrain, Nanado promise. Then all of a sudden, just a year into the administration, you've become bonfire. I mean, throwing salvos and missiles, criticizing things that you think are not right. What exactly do you think went wrong with what the narrative was in opposition and the narrative is now?
I want to be very honest about this.
Please be. Borehole's bad.
No. Especially now that we have grown. And I have to say that we keep growing. His Excellency the President called all of us. He invited us. In fact, I'm not one party foot soldier who just got up and went to the Independence Square. I had an invitation to all the events on...
It shows that you're an important person.
I am honored. Yes, I was privileged to have an invitation to be at the Independence Square, where His Excellency the President told us to be citizens and help him protect the public purse. That's what he told us. When he came to power, that is what we wanted to do for him, to help him protect the public purse. So protecting the public purse comes with all the issues that people don't want to hear, because there are too many criminals around him. Too many people want to use his government for their personal interests, to humiliate him, to affect his legacy. And this is somebody that we have been with. And for helping the president protect the public purse and by fighting corruption, the people around him some of them actually, have decided to fight us. Which is very wrong. We have lost a lot. We have lost a lot. If the president tells me that, help me protect the public purse, and because of that, people are coming after my business, and I invest so much, and I take bank loans, and you are canceling my contracts, and you are doing just because I don't want to be the people who will keep quiet and chop. We have to live in a country where if you have a job, you should have a voice. You cannot give me a job and take away my right to freedom of expression. Or just because you gave me a job, all of a sudden, when I see black, it's white. And
I've seen that you've adopted a certain laissez-faire attitude, like, I don't care.
Yeah, no,
there's a lens, so you always have to look into the lens. Yeah.
No, I really care. If I don't care, I'll be standing in the middle of the road when the car is coming. I care, but I don't allow it to affect me. I am not fearless, but fear will never stop me from doing what will make this country great, from doing what will make me great, from doing what is right. And what has happened now is not a change for me, if you ask me. It's not a change from one Kwame A-Plus to another. This is the same thing that happened under John Mahama. We are out there talking about all the wrongs. This is the same thing that happened under Tamils.
You had a contract with the state agency, right?
Yes.
When the government came to power. And the contract was cancelled? Okay. So because of that, you went into the bush?
Everybody must be angry. We cannot continue living in a country
because your contract was cancelled.
Everybody.
That's why you're against
you have to support me. If not, we must end this culture where people come to power and decide to use their power to fight people who are fighting enemies of the state. We must not. I have to be angry. Roland, why are you not angry that just because you have a job, you cannot have a voice again? I've given you a contract, so shut up and chop. Now, when anything is wrong, say it's right. How can we live in such a country? It makes me angry, and it must make you angry. It must make everybody angry. People must be who they want to be. If you read The Men Who Built America, if you watch the documentary of The Men Who Built America, all of these are men who had their own political ideologies and affiliations and all, from the Vanderbilt to Rockefeller to they all, some were Democrats, some were Republicans, but they are the men who were allowed to build America. In Ghana, so your boss, Mr. Kwesi Twum, has all the media houses that you can think of. He does not have a voice. He dare not come on Joy FM and say the city is depreciating. Tomorrow they will start coming after Joy FM.
And you are saying that practice should stop?
It has to stop. And everybody, including every media, everybody must support me that A-Plus was the only person amongst all the 800 people who had a contract at Boss who was speaking, even though he had a contract. And because of that, the contract was taken. And he is angry. And yes, I have to be angry. This is not a civilized way of living in a country.
You have consistently claimed that there seemed to be incessant corruption in the Nanado-led government. Not necessarily by the personality, by people around him. Why do you say so?
Because I think that the president is a good guy. I still believe, even though the reason why in some of my write-ups I say he's being dishonest and hypocritical is that I think he has given people too much freedom. If A-Plus says that this guy is corrupt, and because of that it's a criminal investigation, and somebody goes to Australia, and we have all these visa issues, scandal coming up, and those people are working through, and the president has cleared them. There's so many instances where the president has cleared people. And what is A-Plus's problem? Why is he at the CID? Because he said somebody is corrupt. Me alleging corruption, and the person who is corrupt, who should be at the CID? You understand? So sometimes I have my own issue. My issues with Nanado are personal and emotional because I know him. I know who he is. I know what he can do. So there are certain decisions that if it doesn't go the way it should go, it makes me sad. Nanado, His Excellency the President, must not sit down and watch people go to the north and go and build one dam, one village, one pothole. Those are not dams.
Have you been there personally?
I've been there. I know the north like.
You mean you're a man on the ground?
Of course. Look, I travel from Wenchi to Bole to Bamboy to Sola to Wad.
When you went to those places, just like our correspondent said, the dams are not dams. How would you describe them as an entrepreneur and somebody who has...
I say potholer. I've already told you that those ones are potholes. And listen, I'm telling you this, and you can put me on record. The president was not happy with the work that they did. The president was not happy. He was not happy with the work that was done. But you see, these institutions are very difficult to lead, NDC and NPP. You can be Jesus Christ. You can be Jesus Christ. And it will be very difficult. And I think that maybe we also have to learn from all of these. Nanado knows some of the issues that are not right and all, but I think it's very difficult to lead NDC and NPP. The institution itself is built on corruption. So even if they put you on top as the leader, the guys will come to you and force you to be one of them.
If I have to ask of you, give me 4 cardinal principles that you thought was being preached pre-2017 that have now been breached, what would they be?
Corruption, 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 corruption.
All 4?
Yes.
That almost like a house in shambles.
This is the only government that has a special prosecutor. Apart from the CID, apart from the YOCO, apart from the ENI, apart from everything that you have, we also have the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We have all of these. And the Special Prosecutor, with all the budget that has been given to him, is not being able to retrieve money for the state. The only person that is retrieving money for the state that you and I know is the Auditor General. He's the only one who is in the physical fight against corruption. And he's the one that they don't like. You see, let's be truthful. We must be truthful. He's the one that they don't like. This is a government that used ANAS, that promised to use ANAS principle to fight corruption. Today we don't like ANAS. This is a government that used Manasseh's documentaries and Joy FM reports as their basis to call the previous government corrupt. Today Manasseh is against them. Has Manasseh's contract been cancelled? No. What is making him bitter? Because what was promised is not what has been done. If Vim Lady is speaking, has a contract been cancelled? No. Nana Banamwa said, let's get both NDC and NPP away. Has a contract been cancelled? No. I can give you names. So what is making all these people angry?
So you're saying it's not because a contract has been cancelled or somebody is bitter?
Of course. Honorable Kennedy Japon has said more than I have said. He's not the only one. We have their own regional chairman, Abronye, saying that they are corrupt. Even their deputy general secretary said that they are grabbing everything. So why is the focus on A-Plus who lost the contract?
Let me just go onto your Facebook. And sometimes it marvels me. So I'm on A-Plus, Facebook, a page that I've also subscribed. And if you look at your postings, sometimes you get 700 views in an hour, 700 comments. What does that tell you about what you're doing?
My page reaches 4.5 million people every week. That's on the low, 4.5 million people.
Wow.
On the low, every week. It tells me that people are listening to me. It tells me that people like how I do it. I have a way. People say, oh, he's an attention seeker. I say, if I don't have your attention, how can you listen to what I want to tell you? So it's good. And you see, I have observed a certain trend. When I do the trend analysis, I notice that over a certain period, the mindset of the people keeps changing. Those who were commenting in this direction are today commenting differently. So that is what keeps me going. That's my motivation. It urges me on to do more. The people love it. Look, one day I'll make you an admin on the page so that you can go through the inbox messages. You will be amazed. And I'm also helping the people. My page is open for people to advertise.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody, you posted a screenshot of somebody who was grateful.
Oh, yeah, there are many of them. There are many of them.
Now, since you started gravitating away from the normal politics and decided to be the renegade, somebody who is a rogue, so to speak, you've decided to embark on something different. What is it?
I think that the only time after being part of this cycle for 28 years, NDC 8 years, MPP 8 years, NDC 8 years, MPP 8 years, I think that I have observed that the only time this country will change is when there is a significant threat to NDC, MPP power.
I don't understand.
NDC and MPP are too comfortable. They know for a fact that it's 8 years, 8 years. They don't care.
You mean they know that it's a given?
They know that it's a given. They know that if they don't win this election, let's say John Mahama does not win this election, he thinks that the election was rigged. He doesn't care. There will be some small skirmishes, we won't agree, then they will give up. But in 2024, if they are still that strong, and they feel that they have the slightest evidence that the election has been rigged, they'll burn the country down. They know it's 8 years, 8 years. That is how they feel. So until the people of this country can create a third force, that is deciding the election. That does not care whether you have been in power for just 4 years or whatever. The country will not change. And the reason why this is working out so well is that it is not something that I want. It's something that is in everybody's head.
That's why you get the accolades on Facebook.
That's why the people are here every day. When the boys move and they come here, it's crazy.
So you're saying that even though a section of the population have not altered their sentiments, their dissenting sentiments publicly, there's a silent minority out there who are concerned about the current state of government.
The people who actually decide who is president are there. That's silent. And many of them.
And they are the people
and I'm putting those people together under one umbrella.
What is that?
Many of them under the People's Project.
What?
Under the People's Project.
The People's Project?
Yes, under TPP.
TPP?
Yes, there are many people out there who are looking for somebody who can shout to away so that they respond yay. There are so many of them out there.
A-Plus, is it not that you're also somebody who also wants to get to the reins of governance? You want to get closer to the reins of leadership.
What is wrong with that?
And
do you have a problem with
that? Well,
there's
nothing wrong with that. You also get there.
I remember when you started your
my media practice.
You wanted to get here, and you are here, and I'm happy for you. Why are you not happy for me?
And when you
because there were corrupt journalists, there were people who wanted to take money for whatever. So was it right for me to say, oh, you want to be a big journalist, so you can also take Solly? No. Roman Catholic Church was not begun as Roman Catholic Church. I'm sure it began as a prayer group, and this is where it is. For now, our focus is to create a third force to reduce the power of NDC and NPP.
So you call it TTP?
TPP.
TPP.
Yes, the People's Project. Yes, to give the people, to give NDC and NPP a certain sense of responsibility. They have to be responsible. The power that we give to them must be handled properly. Now they don't care. Now it's just about I want to do this and vote for me, and everybody gets the vote and they go. Once an election enters a second round, and the people of Ghana step out and say, now we are going to decide. Once it is not about one party going to decide, once it's not a how do you call it, a done deal for any party, once it's not a one-off thing that everyone knows one touch, we are going to win one touch. When the people in government, NDC and NPP, notice that henceforth you cannot just get up and win an election just because you are MPP or NDC and you have members, and that the people themselves are discerning enough to make their own decisions, they will start thinking.
So you have an office, a structure?
We have a headquarters that is bigger than their headquarters. This is our headquarters, very big.
So can we go to your office?
Yes. You see?
Really?
Yes, the diaspora. Tomorrow, for instance, we are commissioning, we are doing all the charity projects. Tomorrow we are commissioning a water project in the central region for a village called Breman Usuoko. So our members finance everything that we do. They support us in everything that we do. Yes, and we are very comfortable. Very.
And the next phase is what? After TPP, become TP Party.
Just like I said, NPP began as a
club, a meeting.
Yes.
A meeting,
Dankwabuzia.
Yes.
Yeah. So our focus right now is to create a third force. NDC and NPP shouldn't be too comfortable. I think they are too comfortable, and that is what we want them. We are not looking at forming a party that is not what we are thinking about right now. What we are thinking about right now is that whoever is in government must know that there is a force. Ghanaians have slept for a long time. I keep telling people, anybody who wins the election, TPP is here. We are putting people together. If you don't do what you promise to do, and you turn around and start telling lies in arrogance, we are going to put the people on the street. We are going to put 1 million people on the street. Nobody can move in Ghana when there are 1 million people standing at circle. You can't go anywhere. The people have slept for too long. People have become comfortable in stealing our money. People have become arrogant in stealing our money. You understand? So TPP is not looking at tomorrow we want to form a party, and this is what I was expecting Parkway Syndrome or all of these small parties to do. You don't need to be president before you can change anything. So our agenda is not to be in power. This is what we're expecting Occupy Ghana to do. But they rushed into government and went and took positions and they went to sleep. It's left with a few of them. And these are the guys that we look up to. These are the people that we see are intellectuals. They are this. And they formed Occupy Ghana, which was very beautiful. And we loved the idea. But the same old Sakawa, some of them went into government and took positions. And now the same people who were coming after John Mahama for everything are defending another government.
And this is what you think should not be the case. It shouldn't be the status quo.
It should not. It should not.
What do you think the narrative should be as we are now in the election year? We already have Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the flag bearer of the governing NPP, indeed the president of our republic. The opposition flag bearer, former president John Dramani Mahama, is also out there. And they're again espousing many things they would want to do for the people. What do you think the narrative should be during this election year?
The youth will decide this election. The youth of this country will decide this election. This is one of the most critical elections that we have ever held in the history of Ghana. The president has one more term to go. And if John Mahama wins, he can be president for just one term. They all have one term. And we saw, even when we were looking for second terms, we saw what they did and how they ran the country. So whoever, be it an independent candidate, be it John Mahama, be it His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, whoever becomes president from 2021 must be chosen carefully. Because, yes, if John Mahama wins, I told you guys I was going to come back. I'm back. I'm going to do what I want. I have just 4 years to go. I don't care. If Nanado wins, it can be the same. They all have one term.
But it doesn't matter. They're still running on the ticket of their major political parties.
They can decide. Look, immediately Nanado wins the election. After 2021, the next thing that happens is that all of them will be looking at the next flag bearer. It will be very difficult for them. We know this is politics. Everybody in the NPP will be looking for the next source of power. And that is where the allegiance will start, will be directed to. And so it will be very difficult for the man. And we need Ghanaians to support whoever is the president. We need a certain number of people to support whoever is there. And this person must be a very truthful person, somebody who believes in what he himself said in opposition. We need people to support the country called Ghana. NDC and NPP, they are the same. Roland, in the history of this country, in 1996, the vice president of the Republic of Ghana was the running mate of the opposition.
You're talking about Kawaka?
Of course. Akar was the vice president of Ghana, who was also the running mate of the opposition and was sitting in cabinet meetings. NDC and NPP is just a group of people who have divided themselves. And now is the time for the youth to choose somebody as their president and be with the person and make sure that that person is doing exactly what he said he is going to do, and they vote for him.
That saying, how do you think that we can make the leaders that we appoint, whether it's John Dramani Mahama, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, do what we want them to do?
In Hong Kong, the Chinese government decided to pass an extradition order. That a certain level of criminality must be sent to mainland China, and the people came out in their numbers.
Well, so that was the interaction with Kwame A-Plus. You get this on our uploads as we put them on social media. We're Facebook, JoyNews on TV, bits on our Twitter handle, and then also you get it all through YouTube, through our channel, JoyNews TV. But we all do know that information is a great source of power. Now, while we celebrate graphic at 70 and counting, we also believe our content, which is accepted as truth and accuracy every day, should be accessible on the go. Access your favorite daily graphic and weeklies. That is, We're talking in the Mirror, graphic business, graphic showbiz, junior graphic, and graphic sports on Graphic News Plus app, and enjoy up to 30% discount on your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, or annual subscriptions as best suits your wallet. Now, this offer is on till October 31, 2020. Don't miss it at all. Download Graphic News Plus now on the Google Play Store or App Store, as you also remain abreast of and keep pace with the changing times on the go. Please stay safe, stop the spread, and always be the bearer of credible news from Graphic Communications Group Limited. Graphic, truth and accuracy every day. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news. Bulk SMS 163 characters including spaces. Subscribe to Graphic News Plus for timely news on the go at 30% off. Download on Google Play Store and App Store today. Meanwhile, we have a very good friend of ours celebrating some great times, and from Captain Elvis Blay of the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, GAFC, to your lovely wife, Theresa Che Bafo. It's a great time today, and we wish you and the rest of the family well. That's why we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you some highlights from the world of showbiz.